Hello, friends, and welcome to Virtual Strangers 27. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend, Roots. Roots, I hope you packed a lunch today, buddy.
Yeah, this is a big news week, right?
Big News Week is an understatement. We kind of alluded to it last week with our preview, and they didn't disappoint. News upon news upon news upon news upon news. Let's get started. All right. So obviously, the news of the week somewhat echoes how the year has gone. I said it last week. This has been the year of Oculus, and this past week has very largely played that out. OC6 this past Wednesday and Thursday. We said last week we expected it to be very software centric, and that's largely how it played out. So first of all, the Respawn AAA VR first-person shooter was announced, and it was revealed to be a resurrection, if you will, of the long since dead flat FPS franchise Medal of Honor. And they announced on Wednesday that the title that they were going to be bringing exclusively to Oculus Rift is a title called Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. Medal of Honor, of course, is a classic World War II inspired first-person shooter franchise and was a pioneer in this space. This franchise is pretty much what gave birth to Call of Duty and all of these titles that have become such a big part of the flat gaming space. It all started with Medal of Honor. Roots, are you familiar with the franchise? Have you ever played any of these games?
I think I did back in the day, but I don't remember too much. I didn't get into this type of game too much till Call of Duty Black Ops, and maybe it was even, I think, was it Modern Warfare 2 actually was the first one that I really got into. But I remember them being around, and so I think it's kind of cool that they're resurrecting an already known franchise or thing that people already know about, but have kind of been wanting more of for a while.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that that they're bringing a known quantity into VR like this. This game in its time had quite a large fan base. Like I said, it spawned a whole genre of gaming that's, it's big business today, largely for the multiplayer aspects of it. But as we mentioned in the weeks leading up to this, standalone multiplayer, VR is not ready for that yet. We don't have the user base. We said it then, when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that multiplayer is a feature. It's not a genre. So if you're going to have that kind of multiplayer action, it needs to be attached to a longer single player story campaign. And that's what they're giving us here. There's going to be a story campaign. There's going to be multiplayer as well. And from the looks of it, this is going to be a level of quality that we haven't seen yet in VR. This is, as I mentioned, this is going to be a World War II inspired first-person shooter, story-based, over 10 to 12 hours of content here. They took a real, they really focused in on having an authentic war experience. They interviewed veterans that survived the war. They went to places where specific battles took place and scanned the geography. Roots, we haven't seen anything like this in VR yet, have we? Or something escaping me here that I'm not thinking about?
No. Like the MO for VR, this is what most people are going to expect and probably be blown away when they don't get it. Is we've been accustomed to expect a AAA experience. You know, you're going to get in there and it's going to be like Medal of Honor. It's going to feel like Medal of Honor a little bit. You're going to Wolfenstein it up, and you're, you know, I mean, like that's an example of exactly what we expect to see, and we're not going to get that. I don't believe everything that they're doing. You don't, you know, go to this level of detail for that, for just a short experience. And you got 12 hours of campaign, multiplayer. It looks like they're setting out to be the first Call of Duty-esque game in VR. And isn't it fitting, like you said, this is what started all of that, and that's what's going to start it all in VR in this type of a game. And I'm excited to see exactly what they're going to do. I know a lot of people are, at least flat gamers, a little put off by the fact that it's VR. But I want it to blow them away. I want it to be so good that they have to come in and try it. You know, kind of like I would use the example of Epic Games. You know, I've been interviewing people I always do at work, and I've been asking them if they've been playing Borderlands 3, and most people will admit I didn't have an account before Borderlands 3 came out, and that was what got them in. And I think this will be what could potentially get a lot of people into VR in the same fashion.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all going to come down to people giving it a chance. Most of these people that are crapping on VR have never had a headset on, and if they have, they've never really given it a real chance. They decided before they went in that they didn't like it. It's just this mindset that is so common in gaming today, where people have their thing, and if your thing isn't their thing, then it's a threat, and they just want to shoot it down immediately. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that this it's kind of hard to call it a system seller, because it's not like people are going to go out and spend $1,000 to build a PC VR setup to play this game. But what it could do is open a lot of people's eyes if they happen to be in a position to demo it. It could open a lot of people's eyes to the potential of VR and maybe soften their stance a little bit. Yeah, what you're saying there is true. They were contractually bound with Oculus to produce a 10 to 12 hour story mode. They said that they've easily surpassed that, and really they're just now they're just working on making the best game that they can make. It was playable at OC6 this past week. There was a 45-minute long demo available to select media members, spanning 3 different missions, which, by the way, there are over 50 different missions in this game. Span 3 different missions, loads of different gameplay styles, loads of different weapons. And I think what this game, when it releases, what it's going to signify for us is PC VR stepping up to the next level.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's going to really blow people away. I don't think people realize, I mean, everything that I'm seeing looks amazing. AAA, I mean, that, like you said, not only did they scan battlefields, but the ships and the planes, and like they're trying to make this very, very authentic. And I think from what I'm seeing already, it looks amazing.
Yeah, the apparently the controls and the gameplay are it's set up to be authentic, but it's not realistic to a fault. You know, the guy from Valve the other day that gave the talk that everybody was looking forward to, so that they could glean hints about the next Valve software to be released. I did watch some of that, and largely what the guy was talking about, and the part that I watched, was the difference between making something feel real in VR as opposed to making something one-to-one realistic. Like he gave the example of opening a door. Going through the process of opening a door in VR, you can make that process one-to-one with what you have to do in real life to open a door. But for some reason, due to the limitations of the hardware and the software, doing it in VR sometimes can be a bit more difficult than it is to just walk up and open a door in real life. So he said that the people working on this Valve title are altering things in a way to make it feel like you're opening that door easily, and you're still going through the motions, but it's not one-to-one with real life at the expense of making it more difficult. And I think that that's what very similar to the approach that Respawn is taking with this game. You do have to drop magazines and reload and do a lot of the things that you would do in real life to fight in this game, but they've streamlined it to make it simple and fun. Not easy, but simplified. Does that make sense, what I'm saying to you here?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the things that I've said before. It's not everything has to be 100% like realistic as far as what it would be like, in real life. And at some point, you just do real life, like if you want to be in VR inside of a scuba tank with VR on, then maybe just go scuba diving, but no, it's just it's a weird thing. I don't even know where the hell I was going with that, but yeah, it's
yeah, the point is that they want to give you an experience that makes you feel like you're authentically in a real fight, but without getting bogged down with too many of the details of making it one-to-one realistic in terms of what you would be doing with an actual gun in your hand or whatever equipment you happen to be using at the time. Regardless of that, I think that this is probably going to be the most realistic experience of this kind that we've seen to date in VR, and I think it's going to be so by far. I don't think it's even going to be close. I think this is going to be a new level for VR gaming.
Yeah, it's going to be our new Call of Duty in VR, and we'll be saying Call it. Actually, let's be honest, we've all kind of gotten tired of Call of Duty for the most part. So how amazing is it that they're bringing in a game like this that's not Call of Duty and it's going back to the basics, Medal of Honor. I think it's going to be better than any Call of Duty, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think what excites me the most about it is that it isn't just straight FPS. There's some light puzzle solving in here. It's very story driven. There's a lot of different situations and different kinds of gameplay throughout this campaign, and I think that that's what, more than anything, that's what I anticipate the most about this game. All right, so moving on, that wasn't the only PCVR software news we got out of OC6, and it wasn't by a long shot. We got loads more news. Of course, Vader Immortal Episode 2 was announced. We're not going to really talk about this here. If you're interested in our thoughts on this, we did a full review discussion, and if you want to see what we think about it after this video concludes, you can click this right here, and it'll take you on over to our review discussion where we talk about Vader Immortal Episode 2 at length. We also got the release date for Stormland, November 14th, so just around the corner. It was anticipated that this was going to be with us for the holiday season, and that turned out to be true. A little bit earlier, a couple weeks ahead of time, but by the time the holidays roll around, we're all going to be Stormland veterans, which is exciting. Available for pre-order, by the way, Stormlands. Also, Asgard's Wrath. We got a release date for Asgard's Wrath. And we're not going to have to wait nearly as long as we are for Stormlands. Asgard's Wrath comes out in less than 2 weeks. It's going to release on October 10th. Again, available for pre-order. There is incentive for this one to pre-order. You get some in-game items for pre-ordering Asgard's Wrath. I don't think that's the case for Stormlands. Both titles are for $40. And Ruuts, I don't think that And normally we'd be bitching and moaning about $40, but especially in the case of Asgard's Wrath, I think that's going to be more than a fair price.
Yeah, it's only 40 or 50 hours though, so I don't know. It's like a dollar an hour. I mean, I don't know, man. That's crazy. I'm excited for it. So, like you said, a week and a half, pretty much. I think it's 11 days from today, and it couldn't be soon enough. This is the one that I think I'm the most psyched about, just because I want to make little Sharkmen and Hawkmen, and it's cool.
Yeah, everybody that has played this seems to be beaming about it. I was initially skeptical when I heard 40 plus hours of campaign gameplay in this. My BS meter kind of went up a little bit because you and I both know what that means for a VR game. The worlds are so much more intricate and detailed that it's hard to make a game with that much content without having some crazy large file size that you need its own hard drive for it. Turns out, we just found out that Asgard's Wrath, 121 gigabyte download. Roots, you got the space ready for this one?
If I don't, I will. But it's funny. I just downloaded Borderlands 3 today, just to do something flat, and it was 56 gigabytes. So that's over double. The most recent flat game that's came out. That's crazy to me. 121. It is crazy, that's man. Crazy.
Think about that in man hours of work that has gone into making this game. They must have been working on this thing nonstop for years.
Yeah, it's been at least, and I don't know. I just think it's just proof that VR is going leaps and bounds, and it should be making Audica quake in its boots, because this might be the Audica breaker for Roots for the game of the year. So I'm kind of psyched. Something needs to knock that bastard down. It's so good, but I think this might do it.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be the opening salvo, and the period in between when this game releases and when the Medal of Honor game releases, and all the stuff that we know is coming in between there, and all the stuff that we don't know yet that's going to come in between there. It's definitely bringing us into a new era in PC VR gaming, and I think it's pretty much safe to say at this point that the era of the short, janky tech demo is dead and gone in VR. We now, people always said VR doesn't have the content. VR has the content now, or it's going to by this time next year, we'll say. It's going to have the content that to compete with any other platform in gaming.
Yeah, it's what's bad though is it's gonna still take a little bit, because we were just talking about that in Discord today, and Alex was saying people's attitude towards VRs is still not changing for a lot of people, and it's crazy. I still talk to people daily that are just, they'll start saying, oh yeah, I've tried VR, they'll start describing the gear, and I kind of laugh, and I'm like, no. Even if they said they tried the PlayStation VR a couple years ago, I'm like, no man, you gotta see what's came out next. I'll start rambling about all sorts of stuff. It's just, in the last year things have changed so much. I just don't think a lot of people know, and it's gonna take a while for them to get over that hump that VR makes them sick, or doesn't have software, or it's janky, that the tracking's horrible, whatever. They obviously don't know you can make a little shark man, or else they'd be buying VR right now. So
yeah, VR is a very different thing today than it even was 6 months ago. And for a lot of these people, sure, it might be that they legitimately gave it a shot in their mind, and it wasn't good enough back when they did it. But for a lot of them as well, it's just they feel that this is something different than their thing, and if it's not their thing, they're going to shit on it, and that's just That's just how a lot of people are. It's going to take a lot more than even what VR does in the next 2 or 3 years to win those people over. But you know what? We don't have to win those people over. We just have to break through to the point that our platform is profitable for game developers. It doesn't have to be the most profitable. It just has to be profitable, because game developers became game developers not because they want to become rich beyond their wildest dreams. They became game developers because they love games. And trust me, these guys want to make VR games because they do know how awesome VR is. So if they can make money and make a living at it, then one by one, they're all going to come over. Obviously the bigger companies, it has to make a little more sense fiscally for them. But, it's only uphill from here. And we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were 6 months ago as a platform. And it's only going to get better from here.
I want to knuckle bump that shark, man. I just, I see that happening. I was not about knuckle bumping the falcon, but man, I want to knuckle bump that shark real bad. So I got 11 days to wait, but I think I'm going to be lost for several hours on the 10th.
Man, if you really want to knuckle bump that shark, maybe you should be playing Falcon Age in the days leading up to this thing. That way you can get your feel and let that tide you over until this releases.
I almost picked it up. I probably will. I was thinking about it. Maybe I will pick it up because I never tried it. I got this, the needles, all of it sounds cool. So
well, it's certainly one of a bunch of fresh content that we've had over the last few months.
Yeah.
So moving away from games for a minute, when Facebook purchased Oculus all those years ago, we all kind of knew why they were investing in it. It wasn't because Facebook wanted to become the kingpin of the video game world. The video game and games like Asgard's Wrath, Stormlands, Medal of Honor, these are all just meant to be big, shiny carrots to get people into the headset so that they can build their social platform. And we've all kind of wondered, when's it going to happen? When is Facebook going to release that app, that oasis that everyone's going to want to jump into, and everyone's going to just be in there just to hang out, so Facebook can watch us, study our behavior, collect our data, and take us into a new era of loss of privacy. Well, this past week at OC6, Facebook announced Horizon. And what Horizon is a cross-platform social VR application being developed for Rift and Quest. The world will consist mostly of user-created content built upon a foundation of stuff that they bake in, that the people there working at Facebook Reality Labs, they're giving us the foundation upon which we will largely build this world. They're putting a lot of emphasis on emotive avatars, which are very cartoony at this stage in VR history. But I can only imagine as time goes on that these things are going to become more and more realistic. Ruuts, this sounds a lot like Rec Room, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like it. And maybe that's what it was kind of loading up to be, you know what I mean? Kind of getting ready to, kind of leading to be, Rec Room was like the beta test, or just getting everything lined up for it, maybe?
Yeah, well, maybe, or I think maybe they're taking a lot of inspiration from Rec Room here. So we know what they're up to. I mean, they're not fooling anybody. They want to get people into VR so that they can collect their data and build a next-gen social platform where they have everybody's name, face, voice, retina scans, fingerprints, all of it. They want a next gen AI hub with everyone's identity and personal information in it. Ruuts, let's say that they build something here that it just blows Rec Room away, that the quality is on another level. Are you going to let the privacy issues and concerns keep you out of it?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. You know, if it means putting a chip in my brain, then yeah, I'm going to stay out of it. But as far as, privacy issues, every single thing that we have in our house is just about recording us anymore. Our TVs, our phones, Alexa, even people's washing machines and fridges now are hooked to the internet. And I mean, it's reality. So, I mean, I don't know what else we could do to stop it anyway. So why not just jump on the bandwagon and ride it, right? So
I think you largely just summed up my stance on it. People complain all the time that privacy is dying. Privacy is dead. We live our lives on the internet now. They gave it to us 20 years ago, probably largely to build what it has become today. And we all live attached to our devices. Our devices have become part of us. And it's already done. They've already got a lot of the information on us that they need to build this next gen platform. So yeah, if they're giving me a compelling experience in VR, I'm not going to hesitate at all. I'm just going to jump right in. People kind of criticize Facebook for their privacy practices. Do you think that this is going to keep others from jumping into this experience?
I don't know. Facebook is, there's people that, won't use Facebook or whatever for whatever reason, and they just never will. So it might keep them out. But for the most part, most people use all sorts of stuff and they just don't really care what it is. They'll jump into it if it's compelling enough, especially if it's like on the level of, like you said, just an amazing experience, like you're in the Matrix or something, where it's just like you can't tell the difference. Of course, I don't think it'll be on that level, and if it was on that level, I'll be surprised, because Rec Room doesn't run that smoothly. We found that out just playing regular. It's still kind of needs some optimization. So I think we're ways away from that, but I definitely think this is a good start.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that it's important to note that this brave new world that they're building, it isn't all bad. They're not just taking our data and giving us nothing in return. They're giving us the ability to traverse distance and make it so that distance isn't a real thing anymore. You have friends and family that live halfway across the world. Well, you can step into the same room with them at the drop of a hat if you want to. And what they're doing is they're allowing us to build our own world to experience with our friends and loved ones. And they're giving us the tools to do that. And I think that that's a great thing. I think that it's one of the most wonderful things about the onset of the VR age. It's the ability to be close to people who you aren't physically close to,
or remove people from situations that suck. Like if you live in not everybody lives in a good country or a nice area. Maybe that's their only place where they get to go into that is beautiful and colorful and we know that they're using it in old folks' homes to get Alzheimer's people out. And I don't know, man, there's just so many things that VR is doing for people that I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm interested in this. It does look a bit cartoony, but I do imagine that it's going to run quite a bit better than Rec Room runs. Now that said, Rec Room's got 2 years head start on this thing of user created content So it'll be interesting to see how fast people adopt it. Closed beta set to launch in early 2020, full release later in the year. So yeah, those of you out there who have an Oculus Rift or an Oculus Quest, be on the lookout for this. I imagine that your Oculus Home is going to be folded into this world, and it's probably going to expand. Obviously, to Quest, you'll probably have some access to some version of Oculus Home in Quest when the Facebook Horizon launches. All right, speaking of Oculus Quest, let's talk a little bit about Oculus Quest. Let's talk a whole lot about Oculus Quest because that's what they did. They talked a whole lot about Oculus Quest. It's obvious the Quest was the star of the show this year, and if what they say is to be believed, it's deservedly so. One of the first things that they mention is that to date, from the launch of Oculus Rift CV1 to now, that the Oculus Store has done over $100 million in business. Now, that's a pretty big number for such a small platform. But what they also said was that in the 4 months since the launch of Oculus Quest, that Oculus Quest accounts for 20% of that number.
Damn.
So, yeah, $20 million in 4 months in Oculus Quest sales. They're claiming that people are buying them as fast as they can make them. They're claiming that the retention for Oculus Quest users is way above anything they've ever seen with Rift or Rift S. And what that means is that people aren't just buying these things and putting them down. People are buying them and they're engaging with them day after day, week after week, month after month. People are continuing to use them, continuing to buy software for them. So they seem rather proud of that, and I can't say that I blame them. 100 plus more titles to come this year for Oculus Quest. So we've already got around 100 at this point. They're claiming at least 100 more. They showed this sizzle reel here, some of which of these titles were things that we already have, things we already knew were coming, but things like Paranormal Activity, The Lost Soul, Five Nights at Freddy's VR, one that I'm not even familiar with, Snowdrift. I've never even heard of that one before. Fisherman's Tale, Space Channel 5 VR, all new announcements for Oculus Quest that they didn't really talk about, but they did show this trailer here. Ruuts, I hadn't heard of that Snowdrift before. Is this something that you're familiar with?
No, I've never heard of it either. Man, there's just so many good games coming out for this, man. And it's just amazing that, I mean, it's no wonder why there's so many selling. And all those people, there's so many people that wanted to try VR, but had already decided they're never going to be able to. And then the Quest came out and it just was so phenomenal. And they're right. Like every time I look, it's sold out. It's hard to get a hold of, or it has been. You've had to wait. So, I'd be interested in seeing the actual numbers, because Oculus has not been very forthcoming with their numbers since the beginning.
Yeah, I imagine that we might start to get some kind of idea next April, the next F8 conference, when it's been out for a year. They'll probably let loose some figures then. But yeah, tons of content coming for it. It's about to experience one of those periods like PSVR had when they were waiting for all these PC ports to come, and forever it seemed like that there wasn't any content. And then there was a solid 6 months of just title after title after title after title. I think Quest is getting ready to have a period like that, but it's not all ports. During the content section of the Day 1 keynote, Boneworks was mentioned, and it was praised for its innovative use of touch controllers. Then it was announced that Stress Level Zero would be developing a title for Oculus Quest that will fall within the Boneworks universe. So, Ruuts, a new title, a new Boneworks title. It sounds like it's going to be a Quest exclusive. Obviously, it'll port to Rift. Everything that comes to Quest comes to Rift. But I'm kind of glad to hear that they're not going to be trying to water down Boneworks and bring it to Quest, but instead we're going to get a whole new title that uses that awesome physics system that they've created for this game.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, actually. So we get potentially, as a Rift owner, I could get 2 games for one, in the long run. So I'm kind of psyched.
Yeah, I'm really psyched for it. This they've put a lot of time into, like I just mentioned, the physics system here. They want everything to feel real, and I think that's going to be the trademark of this game. And I think that if they're going to make a title for Oculus Quest, I think it will be the trademark for that game as well. Beat Saber was also a game that was mentioned early and often during the Day 1 keynote. They were, first of all, praised for being the first, quote, platinum seller in VR, for selling over 1 million copies, or I think that's what it was, over 1 million copies. Shortly thereafter, that was announced. The creators of Beat Saber took the stage to announce a new music pack, Panic at the Disco. So those of you who are fans of that group, I think in the next week or two, you're going to be getting a new music pack featuring their music. They also mentioned that the release window for the 360-degree mode for the Oculus Quest is going to come out in December, which I think is really cool. Over the last month when I've been playing Beat Saber, I've been playing Audica, I've been, trying out this new genre of game in VR. My only real criticism for Beat Saber as compared to Audica was that the gameplay wasn't nuanced enough. There wasn't enough going on. It was just the one thing, a few different variations that they're sending at you. But I think that this 360 mode can really close the gap there. It seems like this is going to be a fundamental change in how this game is played, and the creators themselves said that this is probably the best way to experience their game is in 360 mode. I'm looking forward to trying it out, Ruuts. What do you think about it?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it as well. Do you think it'll ever come to the regular version as well, or only Quest?
Well, they said initially it's just Quest. Now they're open to the idea of bringing it to Rift S, but obviously they're not very keen on it with with it being 360 degrees and with you having a tether coming off. They don't want you to obviously wrap your legs up, but I'd be surprised at some point if it didn't come to PCVR as well, because you know how people are, they're going to complain until they get it.
It doesn't look like it's like going out of control, spinning around or anything, it's you going this way and then that way and then this way, like I could see if there's tracks that are spinning you in a circle, and maybe there are, but I don't know. I don't think that should limit it, because it might be a while before I get Quest and I want to try it. So they need to make a Ruuts exception for me. So
I think at some point next year we'll probably see it come to Rift S as well. I'd be surprised if it didn't. The way the tracking system is set up is so similar between the two. I imagine, Oculus has made it a point in the way that their software architecture is set up to make things portable from one platform to the other and vice versa, back and forth. So I imagine if you see features being added on one mode of not just this game but any game, you're likely to see it on the other version as well.
Yeah.
At some point in time. The Room VR, A Dark Matter, is in the works at series developer Fireproof Games for an early 2020 release. The Room is a popular mobile puzzle series. It's basically mystery puzzlers. Um, this one was a surprise, Roots. This one I've seen pop up a few different spots. I've seen it pop up in some Quest roundups. I've seen it pop up in some PSVR roundups. It's coming next year, early next year, to all major VR platforms. So mobile, console, PC. This looks like my sort of thing, dude. This looks a lot like a Wilson's Heart type puzzle game. Is that what it comes off to? Comes off as to you?
Yeah, it's what, 1908. I mean, it looks like it'd be kind of like maybe like a Sherlock Holmes type of mystery, where you're trying to solve a murder, or I don't know. It looks really cool. Hopefully it's just not a port over, that they've actually, done some extra stuff on it. But even if it's a port and it's really good, I'd like it.
100% not a port, built from the ground up.
Oh, wow.
For VR. This is a sequel. It's a VR only title, and brand new. People who have tried it said it's beautiful, graphically beautiful game with some challenging puzzles and compelling story.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Just another one right down my alley. We got some new news on Solaris Off-World Combat. For those of you who have forgotten, this is a title that was announced during E3 by First Contact Entertainment, the group who brought us Firewall Zero Hour. They didn't give us much to go on at E3. They gave us a dude and a logo announcing a title, and that's all they gave us. So now we've got this. I don't think this is legit gameplay in this trailer, but they've given us a little bit with the concept here. This is going to be yet another 4v4 multiplayer only game that's going to launch at first for Oculus Rift and Oculus Quest, but then at some later point is also going to come to PlayStation VR. So it's not going to have the single player mode versus bots like Firewall has in it, which I find very unfortunate, because Firewall is actually pretty fun to play by yourself. It's a good way to learn, is by playing the bots. It's very challenging. It was easy early on, but they updated the AI, and it's a lot more difficult now to play against the bots than it used to be. But none of that for Solaris. Strictly multiplayer only in this game. Now, a lot of people are going, because anybody who's played Firewall knows what a pain in the ass 4v4 multiplayer can be when you have locally hosted games and then you're constantly dropping out. Somebody rage quits, you're back in the lobby waiting for a game. There's some kind of network issues, you're back in the lobby waiting for a game. Well, that's not going to be the case with Solaris. It's going to be supported from day one with dedicated servers. So no more dropping out back into the lobby with this one. It's going to be solid. You're going to be in the game until you win or you lose. Really, that's all we know about it. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's more than we knew before. Does this interest you at all, Roots?
Yeah, but I'm my biggest concern is the fact that it's multiplayer only. There's no bots. There's nothing to do outside of play with 7 other players, and if there's not people in there, it's just a recipe for VR dead servers. And how many games do we know like this that are really cool, like Space Junkies, that are going under, that just don't have the base, And I think one of the things that they need to do in every game like this, if you're not going to have a campaign, at least let me play by myself with bots. And you took that away, I have a bad feeling about it, just because of every other game. Maybe this will be the gem that changes everything, but hopefully I'm wrong. I know they've had a lot of success with Firewall Zero Hour, but that's also a certain type of player. You know, that's kind of like the closest thing to Rainbow Six Siege you can get. And this isn't like Rainbow Six Siege, and Siege is very popular. So I don't know if it would translate in the same way. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. This is a genre that traditionally has failed time and time again in VR. But that said, Firewall Zero Hour, one of the only success stories. But Firewall Zero Hour is a very different type of first-person shooter. First of all, it's an aim controller title. It's probably one of the best. Many people regard it as the best aim controller title. It's a different kind of gameplay. It's a tactical shooter. You have to work with your team to win those matches. If you're just going in guns blazing, you're going to die, and all your teammates are going to get killed too. This Solaris is not that. This is they liken it to Quake. It's a high action, fast paced shooter game. So it'll be interesting. I think it would behoove them to delay. I think they should give VR another year to grow before they come out with something like this. Now, maybe if they wait until like even 2021, which I don't think they will, something like this might work by that point because, you know, Oculus Quest is bringing people into VR at a rate that we haven't seen before. And then we're going to have PS5 coming out late next year. That's probably going to bring a few more people along. I think the later the better for this game, but I am slightly curious as to how it's going to turn out because, again, Firewall is such a good quality title, and this is going to be a cross-platform title, which I'm excited to see that, you know, something that's cross-platform between Quest and Rift.
Well, like I said, a lot of why Firewall is so big is because Rainbow Six Siege is big, and it's very like that as far as getting the characters and the special moves and just everything about it, having the person that puts up the armor and like it you know, it's just very, very similar, and so that niche is there, and so people love the fact that they could play Siege, Rainbow Six Siege in VR are pretty much the closest thing to it. And I don't know that this has that. So I guess if they have aspects of that, you know, or something different than just run around and shoot people Quake-like style, I just think this is going to die. Unless it's free or really cheap, which I don't think it will be. It's going to be like $40, I bet. Guarantee you it's going to be $40. And at $40, it's done. That's my prediction. Roots' sad prediction.
Well, we shall see. Again, these guys have they've been successful thus far with VR shooters, so I guess we need to just give them the benefit of the doubt until we at least know more about their game.
Yeah.
We really don't know much.
Yeah,
so,
we don't know shit.
Maybe it'll be so awesome that like Firewall to just be so awesome that everybody wants to play it. So
yeah, let's hope.
All right. So yeah, game after game after game after game for Oculus Quest. On top of that, they also announced that Oculus Quest is going to be bringing in exactly 50 of the most popular Oculus Go titles. So all the hits from Oculus Go, from their very limited gaming library, is going to be brought over, and it's going to get dedicated Oculus Quest versions. Some of them are going to get 6.0 updates. Others that it doesn't make sense to have 6.4 will remain intact the way that they already are. Interestingly, Oculus has announced a program for those who own Quest and also own Go. If you already own these titles, they are going to let you have the Quest version free of charge, but only through the end of this year. So You have a limited window to claim your free copy of these Go ports on Quest. So those of you who fit this description, be aware of it and get your free shit while you can.
Yeah.
All right. Finger tracking. New functionality for Oculus Quest was announced this past week at OC6. Camera-based hand and finger tracking is slated for early next year. It was available for demo at OC6. People said it largely worked very well. They use this. I'm trying to forget. I forget the term for it. Neural networking, I think they called it, where they put gloves on the hands in front of the camera, and basically the AI learned all of the positions of the hand and how to represent that in VR. So it's actually, according to people, it's not perfect, but it's working very well. A lot better reports about how this is working in the early stages than with the Vive Pro version of hand tracking that was demoed late last year. From what they're saying, they're basically targeting this to be more used for enterprise applications and social applications. So like maybe when we're in Facebook Horizon and we're talking to someone, we're going to be able to use our hands. You know, using your hands and body language, we give off a lot of visual cues to convey things, emotions, feelings, ideas. I think that's the main purpose behind this at this point, but they did mention that largely it's going to be in the hands of developers if they want to integrate this into games. Ruuts, do you see any real potential here for this to be a compelling feature for VR games going forward?
Like way down the road, yeah. You know, right now it's going to be a gimmick, just like, you know, like the index controllers using all their finger tracking and stuff has turned out to be. It's not really needed, but it is cool that the developers will have that tool to start integrating things. Even if you say for the next year you couldn't use it for anything outside of Oculus Home, and you could go in there and you could use all your stuff and you could grab your cartridges and put them in, and you didn't have to have your controller anymore. When you started it up, you just used your hands now and you pointed and did stuff. That would be cool, you know? But I think we're a long ways off to where it'll be used in games or whatever. But it'll be nice, you know? I mean, it'll be nice eventually to where we don't need controllers anymore. But, you know, like I said, we're talking a long ways, in my opinion, before we get to that point.
Yeah, I got thinking about this, and I think, you know what my favorite thing about this is? My very favorite thing? This is basically free upgrade. You know, this is new, groundbreaking functionality that they're implementing into a product. And they didn't sell us on this when they sold us this product. They sold us on a mobile VR gaming device. And now they're adding this groundbreaking new technology in it free of charge. You don't have to pay anything. So whether this turns out to be something awesome, or it turns out to suck, or if you only can use it in social applications, or if there's only one good thing that it's good for, it's the product getting better. It's Oculus Quest being better tomorrow than it is today. And I think that that's awesome. Now, specifically in terms of gaming now, today, what they could do with something like this today that doesn't work perfectly. It's very rudimentary. You have to have your hand right in front of your cameras, and you can only do basic gestures. I think that, obviously you don't want to be in a game without a controller. Controllers give you a level of variability that really you need if you want to have a a rich gaming experience, you kind of have to have a controller. But you really only need to have one, right? So why couldn't they give you a game that has one touch controller? You have one free hand. So let's take, for example, the Star Wars game like we've been playing last week. In this hand, I've got my lightsaber. I've got my controller. I'm using it to move around the space. But in this hand, the Force. Right? So I think that games like that, applications like that, we could certainly see more of in the short term. And again, even if we don't, it's just it's free of charge. It's high technology at no extra cost. So in my opinion, that's a good thing.
Well, let me ask you this, because I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but not really. I've seen a lot of people that are upset that this isn't coming to Rift S. And like you just said a minute ago, everything that comes to one goes to the other. It's just a matter of time. I mean, does anybody really think that they're going to bring this technology out and not bring it to the Rift S? To me, that makes no logical sense whatsoever. Like I expect that I'll be doing this like everybody else in 6 months. Maybe it'll be a little longer. They're just focusing on the Quest first because that's their baby, and that's what they're just showing us. That's what they're focusing on first. Everything else will trickle down to the Rift S eventually, or am I wrong?
Well, it's not. You know, people act like it's these executives at Facebook that are pushing the mobile platform on the public, and that the reason why things are coming to Quest and not to PCVR is because that's just the way that Facebook wants it. No, that's not the case at all here. All that Facebook is doing is giving people options. The market will dictate where they focus. It's going to go. They're going to develop apps and features for where the people go. So if people are going into standalone and not PCVR, then they're going to put the majority of their focus on that. If people really want PCVR to be the focus of Facebook Reality Labs, then all they have to do is go buy a gaming PC, go buy a Rift S, and then Facebook's going to be all about PCVR, I guarantee you. But yeah, what you're saying here specifically with the finger tracking and features like this, I heard, and I'm not sure how true it is, I heard that the reason why this is launching on Quest and it's not launching simultaneously with the Rift S is that the software that they're using to accomplish this relies very heavily on the hardware acceleration that's baked in to the Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. So I think that on the level of the chipset, that this feature at this point in time depends on that. So will they be able to emulate it with the PC? Sure. I'm sure that at some point they're going to be able to do that. But again, it's not like it's going to have this big major impact on gaming to begin with. This is something that's more going to be used for social and enterprise applications anyway. So I don't think, if people want to get upset about it, that's fine. But I don't think they're going to be missing out on too much here, at least in the near term.
Right.
All right. So, yeah, that's not the only new functionality that was recently announced for their baby, Oculus Quest. So Oculus announced even more functionality, new functionality for the Oculus Quest this past week. And in my opinion, it was the news of the week, probably the news of the year. They announced PCVR functionality for Oculus Quest through a program, an update called Oculus Link. Now, we talked about this last week, that there was a rumor that this was coming. we had speculated that it might be wireless. It's not. It's tethered. It's tethered through a USB-C connection to your PC. Now, they did mention, John Carmack during the Day 2 keynote mentioned that wireless is the goal. They are working on that, but it's just not fast enough. There's too much latency right now to release wireless to the public. So at least for now, it's USB-C tether. Now, that said, they said that most USB-C cables will work, but for those of you who want the best, they're going to be releasing their own cable after the feature launches, notably, their own USB-C cable that's fiber optic, and $80, $80 that cable is going to cost if you want to link your Oculus Quest up to your PC. If not, there's going to be a bunch of other cables that are going to work, maybe not as well, but they will work. Although the Rift Store was the scope of their original announcement, initially they just announced that you're going to be able to play titles from the Oculus Rift Store. We did come to find out in the days since then that it is going to support Steam VR as well. So it's not just Oculus, not just the Oculus Store, which I pretty much assumed that it would just be Oculus, that they were going to lock it down the way they have everything else with the Quest. But no, they're going to allow you to play Steam VR with this thing as well, which I think is pretty cool. The feature is going to launch later this year. The demos, people demoed it this past week, and most people say that it's in its current state that the performance is more than satisfactory, even though the process is very different from a standard PC VR setup. This works more like a video stream to the Quest via the cable than it actually works like a standard PC VR headset, which works kind of like an extra display connected into your computer. Ruuts, not a big surprise that they're doing this. When they released this Oculus Quest way back when, and we saw that there was a USB-C connector on the side of it, we knew that this was a possibility and even a likelihood at that point in time that this was going to happen. Are you surprised that they're breaking this out so soon after the launch? It's only been 4 months.
No, it's pretty much almost I don't want to upset anybody, but it's almost putting a final nail in HTC, with the focus. And now you've got, that was the big thing. Everybody thought it was going to be a wireless, and then you could tether it, right? And then they found out, oh shit, it's not. And then now Quest is coming out and doing exactly what they said it was going to be, they were going to do, and they're actually doing it. And so, yeah, no, I just think it's brilliant. I think it's Oculus being one step ahead of everybody else. Now, granted, it's not the same thing. Like you said, look at all that stuff it's got to do, all the rendering, decoding, encoding. And from what I thought I saw, it was going to also have to do a lot of foveated rendering as well to make it look. So it's not going to be 100%. And I know I'd seen a quote that said that, like if you're a VR snob, then you're going to still want the Rift S. And that, I know Mamefan said that, well, he's that person and I am as well. So I think it's going to be, I just think it's super cool. There's a lot of people that have been upset about this news, but I just think overall it's actually a positive thing for everybody, PC VR as well.
Yeah, people tend to like to get upset, but again, this is nothing more than free functionality that wasn't part of the initial package that they sold us. That's just being given to us for free. Rift S is still on the market. Everybody's Rift S is going to work tomorrow just fine. It's just Facebook once again giving people options and saying, hey, tell us what you want. vote with your dollars, and I think that that's only a good thing. Now, a lot of people are upset because they said that they should have been told that this was coming from launch, and it makes me really curious. Would it have even made a difference? A few people may have held out, but again, this is a feature. We don't have it today. This is coming later in the year. Let's just go back to then, okay? So Oculus announces this, what was it called? The Santa Cruz, Oculus Santa Cruz, before it launched. Standalone VR headset. People said they don't care about PC VR. They're trying to get away from PC VR. So then they announce, okay, it's Oculus Quest. It's coming in April. And people, they don't care about PC VR. And then Oculus says, well, so is Rift S. We're going to give you an upgraded PC VR headset that's a real upgrade visually and comfort-wise, ease of use, an upgrade in many ways for the same price as the original Oculus Rift, for the same price as Oculus Quest. We're not giving up on PC VR. Here's your new PC VR headset. And people said, well, your headset has shitty sound on it. Your headset has an LCD screen in it instead of an OLED. Your headset doesn't have IPD slider on it. It's digital IPD. So then Facebook says, well, okay, so take your Quest then, and now you can use that on your PC. And here's your OLED, and here's your IPD slider. Well, what's going to happen to my Rift S? Why don't you care about Rift S anymore? Rift S is screwed. Rift S is dead. If they had told people on day one that this was going to be a feature in it, and they either didn't give you the option of having Rift S, if they didn't give people the Rift S then, people would still be claiming that they don't care about PC VR. And if they did give the Rift S and announced this feature is coming at the end of the year, people still would have bought the Rift S, because who wants to wait another 9 months on this feature, or 8 months, or whatever it was? So, yeah, so here's Facebook basically once again catering to the PC VR crowd, saying, look, if you want an option with an OLED, if you want an option with an IPD slider, here's your option. And still people are not satisfied when, again, at the end of the day, all it is giving us free features and giving the consumer more choices, and in many ways ensuring PC VR support for many years to come, in my opinion.
Right, I agree. And like you said, the whole thing is they're worried that they're moving away from PC VR, and no one even talks about the fact that they even talked about Half Dome 2 and 3, and they're still working on amazing lenses that that are way ahead of everybody else, and size, and just not even using the motors that the Half Dome 1 and 2 were using. So they're clearly not moving away from PC VR. I just feel like a lot of people, they feel betrayed. They shouldn't feel betrayed. I think this is exciting for PC VR as well as console VR, and I believe that we probably will see since they're bringing the tether, why wouldn't they just suddenly start, or they probably have been working on wireless for the Rift S as well. Maybe we'll get a module for that at some point. That would be exciting. So who knows, man? They just keep coming out with all sorts of stuff that could be down the road.
It could be, it could, literally anything can happen. Nothing surprises me with them anymore. That they keep making their products better. With the Quest specifically, sure, it's going to be a streamed signal that's decoded on the hardware locally at 72 hertz. But they did mention that it was more than capable of running smoothly at 90 hertz. And the only reason that 90 hertz isn't going to be unlocked initially is because they would have to refile something with the FCC, and It's something that they really don't want to do right now. But it wouldn't surprise me in 6 months' time if this thing's running at 90 hertz. And then there's all of this extra hardware that's in this. You've got mobile processors. You've got another Wi-Fi connection. There's a lot of possibility there with these extra resources, some of which are being used. The Carmack revealed that part of this process is leveraging that mobile processing power. But sky's the limit with these extra resources. They could use that stuff for anti-aliasing, sort of like the M cable does, PlayStation VR. Really, they could use it for anything. You've got an extra Wi-Fi connection, so who's to say that you can't use your extra processing power in conjunction with your extra internet connection to stream content? So the computer is rendering the video game, but your mobile unit is recording and streaming at the same time. Really, they could do anything with it, and I think it's exciting. I think it's great that they continue to improve upon it. I don't think that it hurts PCVR's prospects. If it changes anything about the future of PCVR, I think that it's probably very likely now that we never see another PCVR headset from Oculus that doesn't have some kind of a mobile processor in it. And I can hear you guys now saying, oh, but it's uncomfortable. They hear us. They know that we're saying it's uncomfortable. Trust me, the next one's not going to be uncomfortable. They'll fix that. But yeah, I see it as a big plus for VR. I see it as a big plus for consumers. And to be quite honest, I don't see what the big deal is.
I would love to see them get the processor out of the headset, kind of like the the AR ones with the pucks and stuff. Like, you could make it so light to where you'd almost feel like you're not even wearing the sucker and it's in your pocket or clipped to your thing. Like, why is that not a thing? They've already done it in other technology. I just think that, to me, that's good. And I, get it away from my face. I don't want that processor up there anyway. So
that could be what they're looking at. Everyone says it. This thing's uncomfortable. I guarantee you that the next one won't be. And while sure there might not be a Rift 2, I think it's just as likely that there won't be a Quest 2, that there's going to be something new, something that does both. And I think that as we move forward, all of these different technologies, PC, standalone, VR, AR, controllers, gloves, hand tracking, I think as time goes on, all of this stuff is going to continue to integrate with one another until we get to the end game, which is one device to rule them all.
It can't come soon enough.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a hell of a fun ride getting there. I'm telling you, PC VR, standalone VR, it's all amazing for different reasons. And as much as the PC people hate the attention that standalone is getting, there's no question that VR is enjoying a new profile now that it hasn't ever enjoyed before. And the catalyst for all of our success that we're seeing was the Oculus Quest. Whether you like the device or hate it, that's just the truth. And that's just the way it is, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so that's enough. That's enough of that. I can feel the hatred coming through my PC at me right now. Take it to the comments. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
If we've missed some point of view here that and we're just not seeing it, explain it to me. Let's talk it out. The way I look at things is all logic based. I'm not on team standalone. I'm not on team console. I'm not on team PC. I just want the best VR. And if it comes from a shoebox then I'm Team Shoebox. You know what I'm saying? So if you think that there's some aspect we're not looking at here, let's talk about it. Change my mind. I think Quest is awesome. Change my mind. All right, so that's enough hardware talk. We're going to get back to the meat and potatoes of our program, and that being VR games. And we're going to get away from OC6 altogether. We spent over half of our show on it, deservedly so, but it wasn't all about Oculus this week. Pistol Whip kicked our week off with some new news, some new gameplay footage, a new developer interview with Upload VR, and what we found out, whereas before, last week, Pistol Whip was a PC VR game coming out at some distant point in the future that looked pretty cool. Now, Pistol Whip is a PC VR, PSVR, Oculus Quest VR game coming out on November 7th. Well, let me backtrack there. Oculus Quest, PC VR, November 7th, PSVR at some random future date in the future after that. The Oculus version that's launching on November 7th, cross-buy enabled. So if you're thinking about getting this on Steam, you might want to think again, because if you're one of these people who think at some point in the future you might be picking up an Oculus Quest, you might want to go ahead and pick this up on the Rift store so you can get a native Quest version that you can take on the road with you to go show your neighbor how awesome VR is. Ruuts, I was already pumped for Pistol Whip. I think this game looks a lot cooler than people are giving credit for. We now know that it's going to launch with 10 songs, with plans for regular updates in music and levels. So there's going to be new levels in it regularly, new music in it regularly. This thing, as cool as I thought it was last week, I think it's twice as cool this week. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I just think it looks like you said, it's going to be a sleeper game. You know, one of the things that feels the best in VR is shooting guns, and you put it together with music. I already love Audica, and this looks like it's very fast-paced, out of control, dodging and ducking. And the senior developer, if you just saw right there, has got not only blue hair but blue beard and mustache. So I mean, you can't go wrong there. But no, this thing looks amazing. And it's right around the corner, man. Like it's 5 weeks away, 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not that long. I think it's cool. I think it's funny how a lot of these games, though, they say, well, we're putting this out on this date, and somewhere in the future it's coming out for PlayStation. You know, and which it's cool that it's going to, but I wonder how many games. You know, because we've heard it before, 6 months later, a year later, we're not coming out for PlayStation VR. Now, I'm not saying this will be the case, because I think this is a no-brainer for PlayStation VR, but I just don't, I don't like to have that carrot dangling out there. Sometimes a lot of developers don't end up following suit, you know?
Yeah, I get why they do it, though. It's, I think if they knew when they were going to be able to successfully make it through Sony QA, that they would put a date on it. But they know how it goes. With Sony QA, you never know. You could think you have a rock solid game. You send it to those guys. They sit on it for a month, and then they send it back to you with a list full of notes, things that they didn't like, frame rate problems. You know, it's easy to forget that this thing has to run on a 7-year-old console. You know what I mean? So smoothly.
It's easy.
So
easily for me to forget too, especially since I know nothing about developing games. So I'm sure there's developers out there that are like, dude, shut up, man, you don't know. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited though. I think this is going to be a game that most people are not anticipating being as good as it's going to be, and I'm excited to see how good it gets too. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those that's genre defining. I think that this is going to be unlike anything. You know, the closest thing that's out there to it's Beat Blaster, but you can tell by looking at it that this is way different than Beat Blaster even is.
Beat Blaster is fucking hard, dude. If you've ever tried that game, anybody put in the comments, how far have you gotten in that game? Because it is, I've only gotten 2 or 3 levels, and it's just very difficult.
Yeah. But again, a different thing than this altogether. This looks like Audica meets Super Hot meets like Dimension Hunter. Like, I don't know. I could probably rattle off about 10 different games I see influence on here. And yeah, I think it's going to be unlike anything we've ever played. And I'm really, really pumped for this game. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Speaking of unlike anything we've ever played, you know, State of Play happened the day before Oculus Connect 6. And people largely were underwhelmed with Sony showing this past week. I've even seen people say that all Sony gave PSVR was LA Noire, and that's it. And that's nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah, we did get a launch, actually, not an announcement, but an actual surprise launch of LA Noire on PSVR. We got confirmation of Gorn coming to PSVR, but we also got some other stuff. You know, titles like we mentioned earlier, like what was it, the Room VR. We got that announced. We got Solaris Off-World Combat was confirmed for PSVR this past week. A lot of that stuff. But the Sony State of Play kicked off before even anybody even spoke or anything else happened. It kicked off with a game called Humanity. And Humanity is a game that's going to be playable in flat, or it's going to be playable in VR. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that it's coming to us from Enhance. Enhance Games, the studio that brought us Res Infinite, the studio that brought us Tetris Effect. And although gameplay details have not been revealed yet, it seems to be based upon the manipulation of large masses of people. Somewhat of a puzzle type game, but a unique puzzle type game. And coming from Tetsuya Mizuguchi, I have no doubt that this thing is going to be absolutely amazing. Roots, you've played Res, you've played Tetris Effect. That alone is enough to give me blind trust in this title. What do you say?
Oh, absolutely. And what it also tells me is this is also going to have some music in it. At least the other two were very music, visually, audio, everything was brought together. It just looking at it, the way just this trailer, man, it looks so weird, right? It looks cool. It looks different than anything I'm seeing. And I don't know if people are shooting each other or like, I don't know what the fuck is going on in this thing, but it makes me want to play it. And like you said, the as good as the other two have been, for me personally, I don't hesitate. And I know that that developer, that what'd you say his name was? The Japanese guy?
Tetsuya Mizuguchi.
Yeah, he's like known in the circles that he's a genius at what he does. Like, and he spends years doing like Tetris Effect. I think he spent like 5 or 6 years putting it together. If it wasn't that long, it was definitely several years. So, you know, I think this is going to be an amazing game. And again, it's just, I almost feel like I'm like, I need to hate something. VR is coming out with so much good shit. Now, granted, you know, there's plenty of chances that a lot of this stuff comes out and I'm like, oh, this sucks. But man, it's just one good thing after another. And it's making me very glad that I got into VR when I did. I think I got in at the perfect time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Mizuguchi, I read some quotes from him talking about this game. Of course, they're not revealing what the gameplay concept is going to be, but he did uh, he did speak about this game as if it were created for VR. So if you've got the idea in your head that this is going to be primarily a flat game with a VR mode, I think you've got it backwards. This is going to be a VR game with a flat mode. And I can't wait to try it out. You know, you hit the nail on the head there. This guy creates things with audio visual proficiency, and it's always aimed at getting an emotional response from the player. And I'm quite confident that this title is going to be no different.
I'm watching this, and more I watch it, it looks like you know, it's humanity, and you've got you know, you got the evil versus good. You know, you got the dark versus the light of the humanity, and they're fighting each other every time you see them. They're either shooting each other, they're fighting, you know, hand-to-hand combat. So you know, it's really intriguing. Just the premise now makes me wonder what the hell is going on. So I'm kind of excited to see.
Yeah, I am as well. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little while. This one's coming next year, 2020. Probably going to be one of the swan songs, excuse me, for PlayStation 4. But that's not all that they gave us. Not only the titles that I mentioned before for PSVR, not only this title for PSVR, but they also gave us a PSVR sizzle reel with a bunch more titles in it. Well, no, I wouldn't say a bunch, but a few more titles in it. Most of which we've known about, but one in particular that we did not know about, and that's a game called Stardust Odyssey. Now, this one was a complete surprise, a game we've never seen or heard of before at all. Premiered during the PSVR sizzle reel. Appears to be a space shooter, but not just any space shooter. There are also magical elements at play here. So not only are you using physical weapons to shoot, but there's a heavy reliance on spell casting and other kind of magical forces that you manipulate to battle your enemies in this game. Obviously, as you can see here, sports a very colorful art style, and the art style and the gameplay, to be honest, is very reminiscent of Bout of Blood. Winter 2019 on this one. Ruuts, you played Bout of Blood. This looks similar, but it also looks very different, right?
I saw a multiplayer in there as well, and you know, you can buy, it looks like upgrades. I don't know. Bout of Blood for me was a little weird as far as the way that you control the ship, and same thing with Battle Wake, very similar. You use your arms, and you know, my biggest thing is I look at my ship as a means to you know, get where from A to B, and then when I get there, I want to do something. And most of these games, the game is based around getting, I guess, just traveling and shooting stuff, and people love that. It's not something I love per se, but it looks like something that I would love to get into and take a look at and see how cool it looks. And the art looks very really cool, and maybe the gameplay is amazing. But if it's like Bout of Blood or something like that, it might be something that is more for somebody that, you know, loves you know, battling battles, you know, space battles.
Yeah, so. Cockpit shooters aren't my thing either, but this appears that it at least has the potential to be something different, not only in the environments and enemies that you're seeing here, but in the way the gameplay is working. You know, it seems to be more heavily reliant on the magical aspects than even the shooting. So, you know, again, not much known about this game, but in my opinion right now, it could go either way. This could be really cool, or it could be just another title. Either way, it's a nice surprise for a state of play that people didn't have the biggest set of expectations for.
Yeah, the artwork looks amazing too, and that's what's kind of cool. That's why I love VR so much. Is it literally is art on display, whether it's in game or experience, and and that even if the game's not something I enjoy, I always love going in and just admiring how beautiful it is.
Well, that's the thing about VR versus flat games. If you play a crappy flat game, then you just played a crappy flat game. But if you play a crappy VR game, you went to a new place that you've never been before. You have memories of seeing and doing things in an area that not very many people in the world have been. So even bad VR experiences, more often than not, are good experiences overall. So
Yeah.
this, I'm sure that the way that this looks, at the very least, you're going to get that level of enjoyment out of it. It's at least going to be something pretty to look at for a few minutes.
Yeah.
That's not all we got from this sizzle reel. This sizzle reel also gave us our first real look at the heavily anticipated title from Vertigo Games, After the Fall. After the Fall was announced during this year's E3, but at that time only PC support had been confirmed. Now we know that this game is coming to PSVR in the year 2020. So next year, this game is definitely going to be coming to PSVR. And as you can see here, this game takes place during somewhat of an ice age. It's a frozen world, and you have to battle your way through hordes of these zombie-like creatures. As opposed to Vertigo Games' earlier title, Arizona Sunshine, the gameplay here is supposed to be more fast-paced, maybe more arcade-like, and features up to 4-player co-op. Ruuts, I think that this game just looks cooler as shit. It looks cool as shit. And for lack of a better term, both literally and figuratively, this game looks cool. What do you think? Does this thing appeal to you the way it appeals to me?
Yeah, it does actually. And what's funny is it answered some questions for me. Like a lot of people have been wondering, are we getting DLCs for Arizona Sunshine? Why is there no Arizona Sunshine 2? Well, this is your answer. You don't need Arizona Sunshine 2 when you got a better version of the same genre. And the way those zombies are moving are exactly what we've talked about in the past. Like, I don't know, like one of the best zombie movies that sticks out in my mind was the one where they took, they holed up in the mall and the zombies like ran and they're like, zombies moving slow. It's like Michael Myers, from Halloween. And you're like, why the fuck is everybody so afraid of this guy? Just run, dude. He's so slow. At some point, the zombies when they come running in a horde at you, I guarantee it's going to spark something in VR that you don't get in Arizona Sunshine. Even if you just had them moving slowly as a horde, but the way they're running at you, and it's going to make you feel very urgent to get rid of those zombies. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, and I think that the world that they've created here, I think that's the most compelling part of this for me. My favorite type of world to explore in VR is the post-apocalyptic world. The idea of examining these ruins of this infrastructure of a world that was once densely populated with people. Now it's just bricks and dust and it's always very interesting to me. I also find it very cool that the zombie-like creatures seem to be the low-level enemies on this. There are much bigger, much more monolithic monsters that you're going to have to deal with. And if that's not cool enough, all that I just mentioned, you're going to get to do it with a friend or two or three. So it really checks off a lot of the boxes with me personally. And I'm really, really excited to see this. I'm super glad that it's coming to PlayStation VR as well. I think that on the next gen consoles that this could really turn out to be a special title. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad too, or psyched that Vertigo Games is stepping up a notch, and clearly they're putting their Arizona Sunshine money to a good use, and um, have obviously gotten some more developers and or some more people working on it, and this is looks amazing.
Yeah, Vertigo Games, that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from E3 is just how many pots that Vertigo Games has their hand in. It was really quite impressive. It seemed like every other title that they revealed during the Upload VR E3 VR showcase, the Upload VR E3 VR showcase, um, it seems like every other title had Vertigo Games associated with it in some way. Even if it wasn't their title, they were somehow consulting on it or working on it. Um, Quickly rising up to rival even Survios in the VR space. And I think that that's also great. I think the more of these companies that we have emerge in coming years, the better. Obviously, they're destined to be eaten up by the giants. Sony's and Facebook's are going to come along and end up buying them when VR becomes a real force in the world. Uh, but again, I think that's another good thing. And just the sign of VR coming of age. And yeah, Vertigo Games, the best of the best that we have to offer. Now, speaking of Vertigo Games, that wasn't the only news they gave us, and I'm going to finish up on this next little tidbit here. I know we're running a little bit long. It's probably going to make the episode come out a little bit late,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, it is what it is. We're going to cap it off here with the little news about Arizona Sunshine. As we all know, we've been waiting a long damn time on the damn DLC. They were supposed to release the damn DLC this past damn month, and the damn thing was delayed again. But this past week, Vertigo Games actually finally gave us a new release date and the price. So we now know that the new mission is going to be coming to us on October 3rd this week. We're going to be getting the damn DLC on October 3rd for a price of $5. So it costs a little bit more than the Dead Man DLC, but we're supposed to have significantly more content here than the Dead Man DLC. And as you know, Roots, I love this game. It's not perfect by any means. I wish there was a lot more depth in a few different areas in this game. But for what it is, it's fun. It's fun to explore this world. It's fun to kill these zombies. And it's a great starter game to bring a friend that's new to VR into VR with you and teach them how to locomote, teach them how to fight, teach them how to play VR because it is so slow paced. So definitely picking this one up day one and looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's something I want to check out as well. It's something that you could tide you over until after the fall comes out, right? So
It's
you
going
get your after the fall fix in.
well, as short as these things normally go, I'll probably play through it in no more than 2 sittings, maybe one. That said, I'll probably play through it multiple times because I'll play with my daughter, I'll play with my wife, I'll probably play with Roots. Uh,
So let me
so
ask you
yeah,
this: who do you play with first? Like, do you play by yourself, or do you and your wife? I know you've even said like you do date night, and you'll spend a night in Arizona Sunshine and hang out. So do you like? Is that where you would go first, you two, or do you go by yourself?
uh, but this one probably not. Normally I would go by myself, but this one, the wife's been waiting for this one. She's about as damn frustrated as I am waiting on this damn DLC. So yeah, she's excited for it as well. I wish that it had multi-platform, cross-platform. I wish I could play
Mm.
PC with PSVR, but or Quest and Rift, but it's not. We're waiting on a Quest release for Arizona Sunshine. but we're not getting that this week. So I'll probably be playing this one, at least initially, on PlayStation VR. But I'll probably get it on both. It's $5. I'll probably just get it on both. But yeah, probably with her first, as she's been waiting on it, and then with the daughter, and then probably with you.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'll take thirds behind your family. That's a good lineup, I think.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, brother.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess that's going to do it for the news. This brings us into the segment that we all know and love every week, where we run down the content coming in the next few days on the Virtual Strangers channel. So, as you all know, tomorrow, Monday show number 7. So what are we going to be talking about on the Monday show this week? We are going to be giving our first impressions of a game called Doors of Silence, the prologue. This is a game that Ruuts discovered on Steam, so I'm going to let Ruuts tell you about it. Ruuts, tell us about this game.
No, it's actually I made the same mistake when I messaged the developer. It's actually on Oculus. They're still working on the Steam version. But like I said, I sent them a thing saying, oh yeah, I saw it on Steam, and then I realized it was Oculus. But it's a really creepy looking horror game, and I think this time of year with Halloween coming out, it just fits. And so they were good enough to send us a key, and we're going to check it out, and we're going to let you know what we think of it and see if that rat is as creepy as it looks, because it was pretty creepy looking. But this is right up your alley, is it not? Like you love these type of games.
Dude, I can't wait to check this thing out. It looks so creepy. Even if it doesn't play very well, the atmosphere alone, if it's done right, should make it worth my time. So yeah, my bad, not Steam. This game is available on the Oculus Store. Is it any good? Tune in tomorrow to find out.
Yep.
Just today, Ruuts and I, for the first time for me, I guess he's got some amount of experience in it, but it was my first time trying out The Forest. We put about 90 minutes into it, maybe 2 hours. It was a fun experience. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more time needed to make it anywhere in this game, but we do have a few first impressions of this game, and we're going to share those with all of you tomorrow on the Monday show. Ruuts, there's a lot more to this game than I even had given it credit for. Were you surprised at the amount of different things that you can do and build and find in this game?
Yeah, and like we barely scratched the surface, literally, and we spent almost 2 hours in there, and we found that we were just killing guys and cooking food most of the time, trying to survive. But even just like you said, the way they've done that book, you got this book. It's like a manual, and it tells you everything you can do, and it gives you every blueprint you can do, and it makes it so easy. You just put this shadow thing on there. I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it. Let's leave it at this. You want to hear what this is about, because this game is much more than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, this game, exactly. I think if I could say one thing about my short time in this game is, yeah, it's a lot more than what I thought it was. And it's a bit intimidating because I did enjoy it. But it's going to take some time to get anywhere in it. But anyway, tune in tomorrow, and we're going to talk about The Forest a whole lot more. And that will bring us to our topic, our weekly Monday show topic, which is also our monthly Monday show topic. And of course, I'm talking about Game of the Month. What was the Game of the Month for September? What was the Game of the Month for September? And in addition to that, we're going to preview October, which a couple of which we've already mentioned on this show. Asgard's Wrath, the damn DLC, stuff we know that's coming in October. we're going to run down the list for you of the biggest games that are already confirmed for October, and we're also going to give our candidates for Game of the Month in September. So there you go. That's going to be our Monday show. Doors of Silence, the prologue, The Forest, First Impressions, Game of the Month September, and October preview. All right. So as usual, we're also going to release 2 review discussions, which are standalone videos where we talk about a specific game that we've been playing. Last week, I chose Immortal Legacy, the Jade Cipher, but we didn't do it because, surprisingly, out of nowhere, Vader Immortal dropped, and we decided that we'd rather go ahead and cover that while it's fresh and new and people are interested in it. So we went ahead and did Vader Immortal last week. So this week, we're going to do Immortal Legacy, the Jade Cipher, once again for the second week in a row. My choice for a review discussion. Ruuts, what is your choice for a review discussion this week?
All right, so my game that I picked for the week is Dreadhalls VR, and the reason I picked this game is, again, we're coming around into October. We're literally 1 day away. Tomorrow is the 30th, and it's going to be a lot of Halloween themed or scary, spooky stuff. At least that's my mindset. It doesn't mean it's always going to be, but we've only got so many Halloween weeks we can be putting them in here. So, and I wanted you to check it out. So I think it's a really cool game.
Yeah, I've been curious about this game for a while. It looks dated to me, but it has such a strong following and fan base. People still seem to think that this game holds up. Mamefan in particular, Justin, constantly telling me I need to check this game out when I'm talking about horror games that I need to try. So it was on my list for October anyway, so it's a timely selection on your part. Kudos to you.
Yeah, so I'm kind of psyched. Can't wait to try it.
All right, so I guess that's it, Ruuts. We did it, man.
Yeah.
We made it through all of that.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Came out on the other side better off for it. As for all of you out there who have made it through this entire thing, thank you so much for sticking with it, for sticking with us, and supporting us the way that you all do. We're knocking on 450 subscribers now, guys. Getting close to that 500 mark. That's a real milestone for us. And we want to thank you for your support. And we want to ask you to continue to help spread the word. Obviously, the more subscribers we have, the more legitimacy it gives us in the eyes of developers, which means we have access to more games, which means we have more information for you, our viewers.
Yep.
So again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you've liked this video, don't forget to click the thumbs up. If you dislike it, click the thumbs down. And don't forget that notification bell to stay up with all of our nearly daily content here on the Virtual Strangers channel. That said, I'd like to once again thank you guys for watching. And for Ruuts, I'm Wes. We'll see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Yep, take it easy.